ओके शुरू ಮಾಡಿ.
श्री गणेशाय नमः. शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये. नारायणं पद्मभवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रं पराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्द योगीन्द्रं अस्य शिष्यं श्री शंकराचार्यम् अथ अस्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तं तोटकं वार्तिककारम् अन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततम् आनतोऽस्मि. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी. नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः. सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्. वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी स्तोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनली कैवर्तकः केशवः. पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधना बोधितम्. लोके सज्जनषट्टदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं परिमल प्रध्वंसि नः श्रेयसे. मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्. यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः. ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः. देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः.
कृष्ण
ब्रह्मणे नमः. उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं नात्मानामवसादयेत् आत्मैव ह्यात्मनो बन्धुः आत्मैव रिपुरात्मनः.
We are on verse 5 of chapter 6. Okay, continue.
बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य येनात्मैवात्मना जितः अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेतात्मैव शत्रुवत् जितात्मनः प्रशन्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयोः ज्ञानविज्ञानतृप्तात्मा कूटस्थो विजयेन्द्रियः युक्त इत्युच्यते योगी समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चनः सुहृन्मित्रार्युदासीन मध्यस्थद्वेष्य बन्धुषु साधुष्वपि च पापेषु समबुद्धिर्विशिष्यते योगी युञ्जीत सततम् आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः एकाकीयत चित्तात्मा निराशीरपरिग्रहः शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठास्य स्थिरमानसनमात्मनः नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचं
चैलाजिनकुशोत्तरं तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यतचित्तेन्द्रियक्रियः
उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्यात् योगमात्मा विशुद्धये समं कायशिरो ग्रीवं धारयन्नचलं स्थिरः सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वं दिशश्चानवलोकयन् प्रशान्तात्मा विगतधीः ब्रह्मचारी व्रते स्थितः मनः संयम्य मच्चित्तो युक्त आसीत मत्परः एवं सदात्मानं योगी नियतमानसः शान्तिं निर्वाणपरमां मत्संस्थामधिगच्छति ज्ञातश्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्तमनश्नतः न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन युक्ताहारविहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः यदा विनियतं चित्तम् आत्मन्येवावतिष्ठते निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा. ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣ ಅವರೇ.
Okay, I said thank you, Akila, Lakshmi, and Hari.
Thank you.
ಕ್ಷಮಿಸಬೇಕು, ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು.
Okay. All right, very good. We'll move on. A couple of, before we start, a couple of announcements. Tomorrow is Shankar Jayanti. Because of Acharya Shankara, we are able to understand and study Bhagavad Gita that we are studying. So tomorrow, spend a few minutes in whatever capacity you can to dwell on Sri Shankara. Read one of his, if you have any book, any commentary, his commentary on any of the topics or the subjects, you can read that. Or if you have some verses or the compositions he has created, like Bhaj Govindam, you can read that. Spend a few minutes thinking about him. But because of his presence on this earth, Lord presence appearing as Shankara, that we are able to even retain Hinduism. I think that's more than Bhagavad Gita. Today we would not have been Hindus if he did not come and support the Hindus, Sanatana Dharma, the Vedas. Otherwise, it would have all been destroyed by the Buddhists. And as we know that even in spite of his contribution in the last 200, 300 years, the Christians and Muslims have done enough damage. But because Lord comes in now and then, and he boosts the dharma, that we are able to study his contribution, study Bhagavad Gita today. The second one is there was one Swamiji, Swami Omkarananda. He left his body last week. He was in, I think, a place called Teni in Tamil Nadu. He was a student of Swami Dayananda Saraswati and Swami Paramarthananda. He was very well regarded. So he was known to be a great scholar, both in Dharma, in Vedas, and in Upanishads. And more than anything, he was considered a great leader in promoting the Sanatana Dharma. So we offer our blessings, our prayers to him. And with that, we'll continue with the class today. So in the last class, we discussed a few of the dhyana aspects. Prashantatma vigatabihi brahmachari vrtestitaha manas samyamya machitto yukta asita matparaha. So being serene in his mind, vigatabihi, fearless. In the process of dhyana itself, there is a churning of our thoughts or our impressions in the mind. Sometimes these churnings could cause some fear. And Krishna is saying it's normal. It is normal to have that kind of churning, and don't be concerned about it. Brahmachari Vratestitaha, we discuss some of the aspects of being a brahmachari. And then Manasamyamya Machitto Yukta Asita Matparaha. Machittaha Matparaha. Machittaha means be always devoted. Have me in your mind. That's what Krishna is saying. Having Krishna in the mind, it pushes away the thoughts of the Prakriti. Therefore, that Machittaha and Matparaha. Think of me as the most supreme. That's what he says. And there's nothing more superior than Krishna. And you keep me as the goal, Matparaha. And then like that seated, Yunjannevam Sadattanum Yogi Niyata Manasaha. He practiced this yoga, controlling his mind. Shantim Nirvana Paramam Samstam Adhigachati. Practicing in this way, you will attain to the ultimate peace. Nirvana Paramam means is moksha, the supreme moksha you will attain to. And Matsamstam Adhigachati, you also come and reach me. And then he gives a couple of suggestions in terms of during the practicing period, during the dhyana period, what kind of eating schedule we should have, what kind of sleeping schedule we should have. All those things are discussed in a couple of verses. And yada viniyatam chittam atmanyeva vatishtate nispraha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tada. Yukta is the person who has attained to yoga, or an integrated person, integrated with the Paramatma. When this mind, chitta, viniyatam is managed, is regulated, atmanyeva avatishtate. It stays in the Atma itself. The mind does not deviate from Atma. Nispraha karmaka sarvakamebhyaha. And in this process, he dilutes his desires, and ultimately the desires are behind him. Yukta ityuchyate tada. That is when all his desires are diluted or removed away, then he is called a yukta, or he is attaining to the state of the yoga that is necessary for achieving the moksha. are getting the self-realization. So that is where we stopped in the last class. And then we will continue in the from the next verse here. Yatha deepo nivatastho nengate sopama smrta yoginaha yatachittasya yunjato yogamatmanaha. He gives a comparison. The state of the mind of the yogi who is engaged in dhyana, what should that state of the mind should be is explained or described through an example. Yatha deepo nivatastaha na ingate. So this a big lamp, a lamp in a place, nivatastaha, where there is no air movement, there is no wind. There is no wind, the lamp in a place without any wind, na ingate, it does not flicker. Like that, sa upama smrta, that comparison is made to describe the state of the mind. Yoginaha yatachittasya, the victorious mind of the yogi, atmanaha yogam yunjataha. It's engaged in the meditation of Paramatma. That engagement in the meditation of Paramatma, that does not flicker to this person, to this yogi who has won over his mind. He has the mind totally under his control. Such a person, his mind is engaged in meditation like a lamp in a place which does not flicker. Lamp in a windless place which does not flicker. So that is an example given to describe the state of the mind or the chitta of the yogi who is successful in being seated in yoga. So the disciplined mind of a yogi is established steadily in the self, exemplified by the unwavering lamp in a windless enclosure. So if there is no wind, the lamp is steady. That example is given to define the state of a steady mind. So the big lamp, it is situated in a windless or an air movement less enclosure. It does not flicker. This is our experience. We have seen that such a lamp will not flicker. It remains steady is compared to the seeker established in Atma. That is the state of the mind of a person who is established in dhyana. Here, the mind of the integrated person, that is compared to this lamp in a zone free of air movement. The mind is as fickle as a burning lamp in open air. If we have a lamp in an open place, or we have seen witness sometimes, we want to do a Mangalarti and then it is so hot, we have the fan turning. If the fan is turning, then we cannot contain the flame of the fire, the camphor flame that we are trying to do the Mangalarti. Therefore, the mind is fickle like that, like the lamp which flickers in a air movement. So the lamp called mind does not waver in the absence of air called desire. So that's the comparison that is made. The mind is not going to be wavering like the absence of air and like in the absence of desire. So the lamp is in an enclosure with the doors and windows is likely to flicker. If I gave the example of the fan, but it could be even if there is a lot of air movement in the environment. If your windows are open, that could also cause some movement. Even that should be avoided. That's the implication, that the mind should be so steady, like there is absolute no air movement in a room where you want to maintain a steady lamp. Like that, the sense organs are the doors and the windows to the mind. So the idea given here is that our sense organs should be shut to outside sense objects. When we do that, then our mind will be steady. So the lamp becomes an example to describe the state of a chitta established in the Atma. Easily understandable that such a mind will be able to focus on the object of meditation, that is the Paramatma. So the yogi, by the strength of practicing this dhyana like this, with his chitta mind controlled, being in single pointed focus, ekagra it is only focused on that particular object of meditation, like the lamp in a non-air movement zone, and he attains to yoga. That is a that is the successful strategy or a tactic to practice yoga. Here, a yogi is one who has merged in Paramatma. The union of Jivatma with Paramatma is yoga. So there is incidentally, there is a definition of yoga is also given. Ultimately, Jivatma and Paramatma, the Jivatma is not different from Paramatma. The Jivatma merges with Paramatma means the identity of Jivatma is removed and the Paramatma alone remains. So that is yoga, and a person who has achieved that is called yogi. That is the most general statement. But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna calls even a beginner yoga practitioner also as a yogi. He has elevated everyone to the state of a yogi. We can say seeker. We can separate, distinguish between a seeker who is a beginning yogi and a yogi who has attained the ultimate goal, that is the merger in Paramatma. So in between, different practitioners could fall in different places depending on how they have managed their dhyana. So such a yogi being undisturbed, like the lamp of air-free zone, the lamp in a air-free zone. So that's the comparison, and there's not much more to discuss in this verse. Let's go to learn the verse. Yatha deepaha nivatasthaha.
यथा दीपः निवातस्थः यथा दीपः निवातस्थः
Na ingate sa upama smrita.
न इङ्गते सा उपमा स्मृता न इङ्गते सा उपमा स्मृता
Yatha deepo nivatastho. Ningate sopama smrita.
यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
Yoginaha yata chittasya.
योगिनः यत चित्तस्य योगिनः यत चित्तस्य
Yunjataha yogamatmanaha.
युञ्जत योगमात्मनः युञ्जतः योगम् आत्मनः
Yogino yata chittasya. Yunjato yogamatmanaha.
योगिनो यत चित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः योगिनो यत चित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः योगिनो यत चित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः
Yatha deepo nivatastho. Ningate sopama smrita. Yogino yata chittasya. Yunjato yogamatmanaha.
यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यत चित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः
17, 18, and 19.
युक्ताहारविहारस्य
युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः यदा विनियतं चित्तम् आत्मन्येवावतिष्ठते निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः यत्रो परमते चित्तं निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं पश्यन्नात्मनि तुष्यति. Starting from this verse 20 to 23, the 4 verses, they describe the glory of yoga. The real undertaking of yoga is described, how the transformation happens in the person, and what his benefits, all those are described in these 4 verses. Yatra yoga sevaya niruddham chittam uparamate, where the state in which the mind, which is controlled by the practice of yoga, is resting. Niruddha means it's arresting. The yoga, yoga sevaya is to entertain yoga. Niruddham is to arrest the external influences. The chittam uparamate, the chitta retires. Uparamate is, you can being indifferent to external stimuli. That's one way of saying it. Or it is retired to external sense objects. The chitta is retired to external sense objects. That is called uparama. So yatra cha atmana, and in which the pure and subtle intellect, atmanam pashyan, resting in Paramatma or seeing in Paramatma, atmani eva tushyati, he rejoices in the Paramatma alone. So this, in the practice of yoga, yogi revels in self. When this mind is disciplined by practice of yoga, that is yoga sevaya niruddham, entertaining yoga, he is arresting the outside influences and he attains to quietude. And when his self merges in the small self, that is the jivatma with a small s, merges in the self, which is the Paramatma with a capital S self. So the important things to note here is niruddha, that is closing the mind to external sense stimuli, and then uparamate, it allows the mind to be resting in the atma, away from the sense objects. So when this chitta, through the practice of yoga, the yoga sevaya, that is through the practice of this yoga, is undisturbed. It is undisturbed means it is not attracted towards sense objects. So then it is arrested from wandering here and there. Wandering here and there means the mind always is seeking something else. Mind is chanchala. It doesn't stay in one place, which it needs a lot of effort on the part of the practitioner to do that. And when he has done that, so the mind remains calm. When that mind remains calm, the jnani who is entertaining this yoga, like the ajnani entertains sense objects. This is a comparison made here. an Ajnani, people like all of us, we are going after sense objects. Like that, the Jnani or the person who is well advanced in the dhyana, he is focused on the Atma. And in this case, an example is given. Prahlada asked Vishnu of loving the Lord like the ordinary people love the sense objects. How much we have interest in the sense objects. Prahlada asked Vishnu, give me that kind of intense interest in you, in Vishnu. So by continuing this practice of yoga, when the mind is brought within the control of the person, and it is not going after the sense objects, the mind is arrested of its transactions. So mind does not go away like the example given, like the flicker of the lamp, that stops. Such an arrest of the transactions of the mind, that is, as we know, is very hard to achieve. Now, it is quite possible that the person who is starting the dhyana practice, initial stages, the mind does go to sense objects. And an example describing that is, the waves of the ocean bring the objects in it towards the beach. Whenever there is a wave coming, hitting the beach, it throws all the objects into the sand there. So like that, the mind returns back to sense objects. That need to be managed and are avoided. By such continuous practice of yoga, ultimately the mind attains to a transactionless state of purity. Everything, even as much as the mind is fickle, the Lord is giving an assurance that you will be able to be successful in bringing the mind to a transactionless entity, transactionless state. And when that happens, when the mind is purified in that state of samadhi, it will realize the Atma of supreme consciousness, and the yogi remains in bliss and contentment. This is something we have to take it now as a word of confidence in the statement of the Lord himself. So because we are not there to fully digest the meaning of this statement, it will realize the Atma of supreme consciousness. We have some explanation on that, but it is still at this point for us, it's a way of state. Therefore, we have to take it as the word of faith in the Lord, that it is true that when this mind is purified, the mind is, it takes in Sanskrit, the word used is Atmakara. The mind takes the form of the Atma. The Atma has no per se form, it pervades everywhere. And therefore, the mind also pervades in that this, not just pervading with respect to thoughts, it is the pervasion of the mind into the Atma, enjoying the bliss of the Atma, because there is no external communication through the sense organs. And that state of supreme consciousness, supreme bliss is achieved in the state of samadhi when the mind is purified. So that pure mind allows to see Atma. Now, here the word used is Pashyan Atmani Tushyati. In seeing the Atma, he is in this. Now, this Pashyan should not be understood as experiencing a sense perception, like seeing with our eyes something. This is not a literal translation like that. And a mirror presents, in order to explain this, one commentator gives this example. A mirror presents the image of the objects. But if you go back and scratch the back surface of the mirror, remove all the whatever the reflecting coating that is given to the mirror, normally we say it is the mercury, or it's being coated on the other side of the glass, it becomes a mirror, it reflects. Then in this case, he says you go and scratch that reflecting surface, then it will become transparent and it will absorb all the light. Like that, this Atma is absorbed in this mind. That is what is called the Atmakara. It's a difficult situation. It's a little difficult for us to understand that at this time, to fully grasp the scope of this absorption of the Atma in the mind. But we have to take his word that through these examples, the commentators makes it a little easy. Just like a mirror reflects away the light, whereas a plain glass absorbs the light, like that the Atma is absorbed in the mind. That is what is called the Atmakara. So the mind must be transformed to a transparent state from a reflecting state. If that is achieved, then you are in Samadhi. Here, where do you see the Atma? This question comes. He is saying, using the word question. So where is that Atma being experienced? You don't need to look outside. It is all inside itself, that it happens in the mind. It happens. We'll see in the next verse also. We see a little more of that. We will see learn this verse and then go there. Yatra uparamate chittam.
Yatra uparamate chittam. Yatra uparamate chittam.
Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Niruddham yoga sevaya. Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Yatro paramate chittam. Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Yatro paramate chittam. Niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatro paramate chittam. Niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatro paramate chittam. Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Yatra chayeva atmana atmanam.
Yatra cha yeva atmana atmanam. Yatra cha yeva atmana atmanam.
Pashyan atmani tushyati.
Pashyan atmani tushyati. Pashyan atmani tushyati.
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam. Pashyannatmani tushyati.
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam. Pashyannatmani tushyati. Yatra chaivatmanatmanam. Pashyannatmani tushyati. Yatra chaivatmanatmanam. Pashyannatmani tushyati.
Yatro paramate chittam. Niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatra chaivatmanatmanam. Pashyannatmani tushyati.
Yatro paramate chittam. Niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatra chaivatmanatmanam. Pashyan atmani tushyati. Yatro paramate chittam. Niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatra chaivatmanatmanam. Pashyan atmani tushyati. Yatro paramate chittam. Niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatra chaivatmanatmanam. Pashyan atmani tushyati. 18 to 20. Yada viniyatam chittam. Atmanyeva vatishtati. Nispruha sarvakamebhyo. Yukta ityuchyate tada. Yatha deepo nivatasto. Ningate sopamasmrita. Yogino yatha chittasya. Munjato yogamatmanaha. Yatro paramate chittam. Niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatra chaivatmanatmanam. Pashyannatmani tushyati. Sukhamatyantikam yattat buddhigrahyamatīndriyam veti yatra na chaivayam stitaschalati tattvataha. Tat atyantikam sukham. Atyantikam is the extreme. Extreme sukham or that infinite bliss. Ati indriyam buddhigrahyam. It is, this is obtained not through the sense organs, transcending the sense organs, and it is experienced by the subtle intellect itself. Buddhigrahyam. Buddhigrahyam means it is captured in the buddhi. Generally, we have the buddhi, whatever the buddhi generally captures of the sense objects, it comes through the sense organs. The experience of the sense objects in the my intellect happens through the help of the sense organs. But here, Krishna is saying, Ati Indriyam, it is beyond the sense organs. Buddhigrahyam, it is happening within the intellect only without the help of sense organs. Yat tatra veti, which he is experiencing like this in the intellect. Cha ayam stitaha, and in which this yogi is rested. The yogi has come to a state where he does not have to do any more effort. It is happening automatically. Tattvataha na eva chalati. He does not waver from that reality. That once you experience that happiness, he does not want to give up that happiness anymore, because once that happiness is there, everything, all other happinesses are included in that happiness. And he does the other happinesses, one in an earlier instance, we have seen the example. There are little puddles of water when it rains, and each puddle of water, you can say, is a experience by itself. But when it rains for 3 days or 4 days continuously, all those puddles of water are combined together in a huge pond. And that pond is the infinite bliss. And these little sense experiences, sense object pleasures that we get is all included in this infinite bliss. And once he sees that, he does not go into that little happiness that he gets out of sense objects. So the yogi is firmly established in the reality when the infinite bliss, transcending the sense organs, is experienced in the intellect. So it is like we see little children playing in little puddles of water when it rains. But when they grow up, when they get to swim in a pool or in a pond, then they don't go back to that little puddle of water to play with the little puddle of water. Like that, this infinite bliss, once the yogi experiences, he has no taste for little pleasures coming from a jamun or an ice cream or something else, or a music or something like that. So that is the understanding that Krishna is giving us here. So, and that happiness, that which is captured in the intellect alone, it is not coming from outside, it is happening inside without the support of the sense organs. And the happiness which exceeds the happiness arising out of perception by sense organs. So he is using the two comparisons here. Happiness that we get out of sense organs is exceeded by this internal happiness that he draws, exceeds the happiness that comes out of sense organs, and it lasts forever. The happiness that comes out of sense organs lasts only as long as there is a contact of the sense organ with the sense object. As long as I am eating the jamun, I have the pleasure. But once I stop eating, there is no more contact and there is no more pleasure of that. The taste may linger for a while, but it is gone. But in this happiness of the bliss of the Atma, it lasts forever. Once we have got that, it never it dries up. It is always there. So, in saying that the Atma is buddhigrahya, it is captured in the intellect, it should be understood to be different from the happiness of deep sleep. What happens in deep sleep? We are happy in deep sleep, but we don't know it. I'm not there to experience that happiness in deep sleep. There is happiness, but there is no intellect experiencing it. The mind has also gone to sleep, and with that there is no experience of the happiness. So I don't know. I only next morning I recall that experience. I was happy, but I really did not experience it at the time of sleeping itself. Whereas here it is being experienced in real time as I'm enjoying that happiness. I experience also in my intellect. So then the question comes, is not the intellect an organ? How can an organ experience something like that? Organ is only a means to for an experience. It is not an experience. Experience cannot take in itself like that. That the commentators give this explanation. When you are dealing with outside objects, the intellect behaves as an organ. But when the intellect turns inside, when you start looking inside and arrest the outside interest, and it is extremely pure. When the intellect, the mind becomes extremely pure, it loses its organness. It doesn't see it. It ceases to be an organ anymore. It becomes a reservoir to experience that form of Brahman. Like I said in the last verse, the mind takes the Brahmakara, Atmakara. So the mind itself expands to that level of the Atma or the Brahman, that which is one and the same. So the intellect really transforms itself into Atma. That is what the meaning is, that it is flexible in that state because it has no outside contact. It itself becomes the Atma. So when the yogi or the jnani attains to and experiences this happiness, he stay put in the Atma and unruffled from it. Is there is no seeking anything other than that Atma. So he just stays there, remains in it in full peace. Such a mind enjoys this bliss of the Atma, and being content, it has no interest in sense objects. Now, this cannot be explained. What is this sense, this bliss of the Atma that cannot be explained? Here in the Narada Bhakti Sutra, there is a sutra that says, Mukha Swadanavat. A deaf person, he enjoys food, he eats food, but he cannot describe the food because he is short of speaking. He cannot explain the food, but he can enjoy the food. Like that, this jnani, Atma Jnani, he can enjoy that happiness, he can revel in that happiness, but he cannot really describe it. That only I have to experience it. Now, this, it can be illustrated with an example. Sri Ramakrishna gives this example. A salt doll, there are a number of salt dolls are playing in the beach, and they wondered how deep the sea is. And so one of the salt dolls said, well, I will find out. You stay here, I'll find out and come. So the salt doll enters the water, and the salt it gets submerged absorbed in the ocean itself. It does not come back to say it. It cannot. So that is how this happiness of the Atma is. So here Krishna in these verses he is really describing the glory of the Atma Sukha, or glorifying the Atma Sukha, so that at least we get a glimpse of that in words, if not experience, and motivate us to engage in looking inside in our Atma. Sukham atyantikam yattat.
Sukham atyantikam yattat. Sukham atyantikam yattat.
Buddhigrahyam ati indriyam.
Buddhigrahyam ati indriyam. बुद्धिग्राह्यम् अतीन्द्रियम्
सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम्
सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम्
वेत्ति यत्र न च एव अयम्
वेत्ति यत्र न च एव अयम् वेत्ति यत्र न च एव अयम्
स्थितः चलति तत्त्वतः
स्थितः चलति तत्त्वतः स्थितः चलति तत्त्वतः
वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम् स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः
वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम् स्थितश्चलति तावतः
तत्त्वतः
तत्त्वतः वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम् स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम् स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः
सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम् स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः
सुखमत्यान्तिकं यत्तत्
आत्यन्तिकम्
सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम् स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम् स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम् स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः
19 to 21
यथा
दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः यत्रो परमते चित्तम् निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं पश्यन्नात्मनि तुष्यति सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम् स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते. So in the last verse, he said, Sukham Atyantikam. He experienced extreme happiness, extreme bliss. And now he says, once he has, achieves or attains to that happiness, what happens? He says in this verse, Yam labham labdva, having attained that delight. Labham is anything of higher value, something that is acquired new, you can say. Profit is also a word for labha. So having attained that profit, which is the delight of the Atma Sukha, tataha aparam adhikam na manyate. he does not recognize anything superior to that. He has gone through in his life all kinds of happiness. What he achieves, that Atyantika Sukha that he experiences, there is nothing that is comparable to that. There is nothing that he can experience which is superior to this bliss. Cha yasmin stitaha, and the yogi seated in that state of Paramatma. Guruna dukkena api, even encountering heavy pain. Guru has a meaning, heavy, dense. These are all the meanings for the word guru. Guruna dukkena, even the encountering very heavy pain. Na vichalyate, he is not disturbed. Once that happiness is there, see I'll talk more about this as we go into the commentary state. So with this happiness, nothing disturbs him, nothing moves him away from that happiness. Having experienced this bliss, he dismisses all other gains as trivial, established in the self. He is not shaken by the heaviest afflictions. Now, attaining that Atyantika Sukha, that attain to that joy of Atma, he does not reckon that there is any higher joy than what he is in, because he has already seen in his life other kinds of happiness, and when he enjoys this by leaps and bounds, this happiness is far higher than the other sukha that he has enjoyed, and by being in that joy, even extremely painful incidents like there is a knife cut or a sword cut in your body, that does not agitate him. This Shankaracharya, he gives this example of a knife cut or a sword cut, because he has separated himself from the body, from the prakriti. Once he is separated from the prakriti, there is no effect of body injuries. Here we can recall the experience of Sadashiva Brahmendra. Sadashiva Brahmendra, he was an Avaduta, he is a realized person. He was living about 300 years ago in Tamil Nadu. Once, he is wandering. He is not, there is not any kind of goal for him, because he is a Kritakritya. He has achieved everything that needs to be achieved. He was just walking along in the forest, and in the forest there was this Muslim king. He had with his queens, he was having a retreat. He was having a party. Now this Sadashiva Brahmendra is not aware of the surroundings. He just walks through that harem, and then immediately the king says they saw him walking through there. They thought he is violating the rules of the harem there. So they cut his both shoulders. But he walked along. He did not even think of so there is a wound or anything. And then he goes further. When the king's aides were very disturbed, what is it? Even cutting his shoulders, he is not complaining. He is just walking away. And so they go to the king. This Muslim king then comes to Sadashiva Brahmendra, falls at his feet. My aides have done something wrong. They should not have done. Please excuse us. And he said, what did you do? What happened? And then they brought those two arms, which was sheared off from his shoulder. This is what happened. Oh, is that right? And so he took them both and he walked along. So like that, this joy of the Atma is so intense. He is absorbed in it, that the physical acts, physical injuries does not matter to him. So having attained this state, the yogi does not deviate from the Atma. He is not turned away from it in any given. You can ask him, you can give him anything. He does not sway from that. He does not reckon anything more valuable than the bliss of the Atma. Of all the joys, the labha in the world, the Atma labha, the bliss of the Atma, is the most valuable. The other labhas are transient, they come and go. Whereas the Atma labha is eternal. It is, once you achieve it, is there. See, there was this one beggar. He was going in some place, and then he sees a saint doing tapas. And then this beggar goes and asks him, give me something. So I haven't eaten for a long time. Then this yogi, he looks at him, whatever prompted him, he says, you know, there is a mount of stone there. There's a little small group of stones. You move that stone away, you will see something. And then the beggar followed the instructions, and then he saw there a diamond necklace underneath those stones. Then the saint says to the beggar, you take it with you. This beggar was very surprised. It is such a valuable item. Then he says, if you have to give me this valuable item, you must have something more valuable than this. What is it that you have that more valuable than this? Then he says, the more valuable is Atma Tripti, Atma Labha. Then he says, then he throws away that necklace. He says, give me that Atma Labha. Like the message here is that the Lord, for those who are worthy of this samskara, he creates opportunities. This beggar, he had in his past samskara, he had done some good work. So he creates an opportunity for even a beggar-like person to come into contact with a saint to give him Atma Jnana. So that is the more subtle message inside this. As much as this saint had no use for the silver, for the diamond necklace, we don't have to worry how we got it or whatever it is. Just it's a story that not only he gave away that something which is valuable because he had more valuable. Like we know, if we have to give a charity, we give a charity according to what we have. We don't go and take a loan and give a charity. That we don't do. If we have $1,000, we are willing to spare $100 or $10, whatever it is. But in order to give something like this diamond necklace, he must have something very valuable. That is what this beggar thought. And he didn't think of Atma Jnana. He may have thought there may be something more valuable. Anyway, for the story, that's how this when this labha comes, nothing else is valued. That is how this verse is describing it. Yam labdva cha aparam labham.
Yam labdva cha aparam labham. Yam labdva cha aparam labham.
Manyate na adhikam tataha.
Manyate na adhikam tataha. Manyate na adhikam tataha.
Yam labdva cha param labham. Manyate na adhikam tataha.
Yam labdva cha param labham. Manyate na adhikam tataha. Yam labdva cha param labham. Manyate na adhikam tataha. Yam labdva cha param labham. Manyate na adhikam tataha.
Yasmin stitaha na dukkena.
Yasmin stitaha na dukkhena. Yasmin stitaha na dukkhena.
Guruna api vichalyate.
Guruna api vichalyate. Guruna api vichalyate.
Yasmin sthito na dukkena. Guruna api vichalyate.
Yasmin stito na dukkhena. Guruna api vichalyate. Yasmin stito na dukkhena. Gurunam api vichalyate. Yasmin stito na dukkhena. गुरुणापि विचाल्यते
यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते
यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते
20 to 22 यत्रो परमते चित्तं निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं पश्यन्नात्मनि तुष्यति सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते तं विद्या दुःखसंयोग वियोगं योगसंज्ञितं स निश्चयेन योक्तव्यो योगो निर्विण्णचेतसा. In this word, Krishna is defining the word yoga itself. It says dukkha samyogam viyogam. Dukkha samyoga means associated with dukkha. That is the our state now. Dukkha samyoga, we have association with pain, unhappiness, all that is dukkha samyoga. Viyogam, retirement of this pain or the suffering that we are having. Separated from the association with the painful transmigration. In a larger picture, the rebirth cycle that we have, that is the dukkha samyoga. That viyogam, retirement or separation from that association with dukkha, tam yoga sangitam vidyat. You ought to know that which is called is yoga. That something which is called yoga is separation from the association with pain and suffering. That is the definition. Saha yogaha, that is yoga. Anirvinna chetasa nischayena yoktavyaha. So this being the case, that yoga is the retirement of association with pain, then everyone ought to pursue this in an enthusiasm, with an enthusiastic mind. Anirvinna chetasa. Nirvinna means kind of depressed. And there's no enthusiasm in doing something is nirvinna chetasa. Anirvinna chetasa is the opposite of that. Therefore, so nischayena yoktavyaha. They have to undertake this. They have to try. Yoktavyaha means when there's a word tavyaha is a indication of mandating. You have to do it kartavya. So yoktavyaha, this everyone have to undertake to attain to this yoga with an enthusiastic mind. That is what Krishna is giving us instruction. So let him know that yoga is freedom from union with pain. That is the definition. This yoga should be practiced with determination, with an inspired mind, always enthusiastic to undertake this endeavor. Let us see. That separation from the union with pain or sorrow, which is known as yoga. Having thus attained this yoga, the yoga of separation from pain, the seeker shall continue yoga dispassionately with a resolute and tireless mind. Now, there is one here. How to understand this is, see, this yoga happens certain time, but it is momentary until you make it steady. When a person is seated in dhyana, he gets a glimpse of this yoga for a period of time, maybe a couple of seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. To steady it and extend it, he has to continue with more dhyana. That is what he is saying. They having thus attained this yoga for a short while, the seeker shall continue yoga dispassionately with a resolute and tireless mind. That he has to continue only when you are up to that point where you don't have any disturbance at all from external effects. That is the steady state. Until then, you are a trainee yogi. Until then, once you attain to that level where from which you never return, that is a attained yogi. So Krishna defines this dukkha samyoga viyoga, that is separation of association with sorrow as the yoga. The association with pain or sorrow is only until the realization of Atma. Once there is the self-realization, he is separated from the association with pain or the dukkha. Why? Because he has separated himself from Prakriti. He is established in Purusha, or he is established in the Paramatma, the superior nature of the Paramatma. And that we'll see in the next chapter. Whereas the Prakriti is the one that is gives us sorrow. Prakriti is the one that gives us a small, small amounts of sukha, or very temporary sukha it gives, and it gives sorrow also. So many times the sorrow is longer than the sukha itself. What is the sukha is considered like like in a sandwich, there is a layer of your whatever you put between the two slices of bread. Now that is, if that is sukha, then you have these two layers of pain. So in time wise, you have sukha, then you have pain, then you may have some more sukha, then you may have pain, and this sukha is short-lived compared to the pain, which is long-lived. That is what he is referring to. That association with pain is gone forever once this yoga is attained. A mind engaged in Atma is free of dispirit or indifference. Now, so many times we may feel dispirited. We are depressed, dispirited. But once you are in the yoga Atma, that means you are in the bliss, that issue does not arise at all. That dispirit or being indifference does not arise at all. And he practices that without indifference or losing hope. That's what the trainee yogi, he must practice without indifference or losing hope, because it happens. It happens is what the Krishna is telling. Now there is another story here. These two friends, they were doing meditation, and they were trying hard. Nothing, it still had not materialized. And then as they were seated in their dhyana, then Narada comes along there. So they offered their respects to Narada, and they ask, hey Narada, can you, anyway you go to see Vishnu every now and then, can you find out when we get realization, when we get Atmajnana, can you find from Vishnu? And Narada said, okay, I will try. And then Narada comes back after some time, and he said, and these people asked, did you meet Vishnu? Yes, yes, I asked about your questions. And then for the first one, he says, you will take 7 more births to gain freedom, Atmajnana. And then this person was dispirited. I have to struggle for another 7 more lives. And then the second person asked, how about me? And he said, oh yeah, Vishnu told about you also. you will get Atma Jnana when you have had so many lives as the number of leaves under the tree you are sitting. So then this person, knowing that it is infinite number of lives, he danced around. Oh, I will get Atma Jnana sometime. So that is what he should not lose hope. He should not lose indifference. That as many lives as possible, there's a guarantee that it will happen. Nothing else in this world is guaranteed like that, other than, of course, death. But Krishna is saying that will happen if you don't lose hope. So some may attain soon, some may need long practice, or some may not attain in this life itself at all. But the seeker must continue his yoga in a very spirited way, and he will attain to that level. Everything is in the practice, and you do the practice and you will really realize the self. That's the message here. Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga.
Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga. Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga.
Viyogam yoga sangitam.
Viyogam yoga sanjitam. Viyogam yoga sanjitam.
Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam.
Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanjitam. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanjitam. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanjitam.
Sanischayena yoktavyaha.
Sanischayena yoktavyaha. Sanischayena yoktavyaha.
Yoga anirvinna chetasa.
Yogaha anirvinna chetasa. Yogaha anirvinna chetasa.
Sanischayena yoktavyo. Yogo nirvinna chetasa.
Sanischayena bhoktavyam yoktavyo. Yogo nirvinna chetasa. Sanischayena yoktavyo. Yogo nirvinna chetasa. Sanischayena yoktavyo. Yogo nirvinna chetasa.
Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam. Sanischayena yoktavyo. Yogo nirvinna chetasa.
Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanjitam. Sanischayena yoktavyo. Yogo nirvinna chetasa. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanjitam. Sanischayena yoktavyo. Yogo nirvinna chetasa. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanjitam. Sanischayena yoktavyo. Yogo nirvinna chetasa.
21 to 23.
Sukhamatyantikam
Sukhamatyantikam yattat buddhigrasyamatindriyam veti yatra na chaivayam stitaschalati tattvataha yam labdhva chaparam labham anyatenadikam tataha yasmin stito na dukkena गुरुणापि विचाल्यते कं विद्या दुःखसंयोगवियोगम् योगसंज्ञितम् स निश्चयेन योक्तव्यो योगो निर्विण्णचेतसा संकल्पप्रभवान् कामान् त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् शेषतः मनसैवेन्द्रियग्रामं विनियम्य समन्ततः. This will take up in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Anybody have any questions? All right, we'll see you in the next class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandeep.
Mhm.
Thank you, Krishna.